People love to say you can't control how you feel, but that's complete BS. A lot of the times people use this idea to excuse their anger or their unhappiness so that they don't have to take responsibility for it and change it. But the truth is, one of the biggest advantages you can have in your life today is the ability to control your emotions. In fact, I would go as far as to say that it's a superpower, really. Now, don't get me wrong, I used to let my emotions just come and go as they pleased, whether it was sadness, unhappiness. Well, sadness and unhappiness, I guess, are the same thing, but whether it was unhappiness or frustration, anger, etc. I would just let them come and I would let them stay. And sometimes this meant me feeling angry for prolonged periods without even knowing what I was angry about. You know those times where you've been angry with someone for so long that you don't even remember why you were angry with them in the first place? Or maybe it's not even someone, maybe it's something. Maybe you banged your toe. Maybe you banged your toe on the table when it frustrated you, and you've allowed that to affect the way that you're treating other people throughout the day, or the way that you're showing up for yourself throughout the day. Over time, I decided that I wanted to be in control of my emotions because I recognized how much not doing so was holding me back in so many areas of my life, including my mental health, including the way that I was feeling inside. So in order to gain control of my emotions, here are 5 steps that I took. In fact, I'm going to throw in a bonus as well if you stay to the end. Step number 1, I accepted that I had control over my emotions, and that just because I had felt sad or just because I had felt angry, it didn't mean that I had to hold on to that emotion. But that in itself wasn't enough to help me really make a change, because there's also the argument that sometimes these emotions are actually showing you something that you need to work on. There's some kind of deep trauma or some kind of issue that needs to be dealt with, and just saying, oh, I'm not going to feel that sadness, I'm not going to feel that unhappiness anymore, that's not necessarily going to be the most constructive to your growth long term. And I'm going to get to that in step number 3, but step number 2 was to recognize that not all of my emotions had a reason for being felt. As I said, some emotions highlight things that we need to work on, but a lot of the times there's not really any solid reason that you're feeling angry. There's not really any solid reason that you're feeling sad. And adding to step number 2 is also to recognize that some of these emotions aren't actually there to serve you. They're not actually there to help you. Now, step number 3 is I started to really take the time to reflect on why it is that I was feeling that specific emotion at that specific point in time. So if I was angry, I would start to ask myself, why am I angry? Really? Oh, someone stepped on my shoe in public and I'm annoyed, but why am I actually angry? This is where it gets deep, and it takes a lot of inner work. You may not necessarily be at the stage to just ask yourself, why am I angry, and have that self-awareness to be able to say, okay, it's not because this other person stepped on my shoe, because that's the truth. Most of the times people's answer to that question, why am I angry, if someone steps on your shoe, would be because they stepped on my shoe. That's not the truth. The real reason you're angry is maybe because your shoe's a bit dirty now, or you feel like you've been disrespected, or you feel like your peace has been disturbed. The action isn't the problem, it's your perception of the action that has led you to feel angry. But what about if you change your perception? What about if you realize that, okay, this person has stepped on my shoe, but was it even on purpose? Like, really and truly, it's not like they came up to me and stepped on my shoe and looked at my face like, yeah, and what? In that case, it's a bit different. But look, they've just stepped on my shoe walking past. They didn't mean it. They might have not even noticed that they stepped on my shoe. Oh, they stepped on my shoe, they didn't even say sorry. Okay, that's interesting. But what is the benefit of being angry? Is being angry going to clean up your shoe? Probably not. Is being calm and tranquil going to help you move forwards in your day? Yes, it will. But I'm getting ahead of myself a bit here. Let's say, for example, it is a situation where there is a deep underlying issue. So for example, you've been feeling down, you've been feeling depressed, you've been feeling emotional, you've been crying, you've been sad. This isn't the type of thing where you just want to say, why am I feeling like this? Oh, it's nothing. No, you want to really dive deep and ask yourself, why am I feeling like this? Where did it start? For a period of time, I was experiencing a similar thing where I had felt down, but it got to the point where it was like months. I'd been feeling down for months, and I looked back and I started to ask myself these questions. Why am I actually feeling down? And I was struggling to find an answer. But then I started to see, okay, it's because of this, it's because of that, it's because of this specific issue that I have with myself, it's because of this insecurity that I'm allowing myself to stay down. So step number 4 is to deal with the underlying issue. See, that's the issue. Some people probably would have clicked on the start of this video, heard me say the idea that you can't control your emotions is BS, and they would all get in a hissy fit thinking, no, you need to be able to feel these emotions, you need to be able to deal with these emotions, blah, 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 blah. That's not what I'm saying. And in fact, just holding on to these emotions and just sitting there feeling them, that's not dealing with the emotion either. The real key is to identify why you're having these emotions and deal with that issue if there is one. Sometimes there isn't one. Sometimes you're just feeling down because you allowed yourself to fall into a downward spiral of a negative emotion. A negative emotion started from somewhere small. Someone made you annoyed or something. Then you took it out on the next person. Then that person responded back to you more annoyed. And then your emotions just went down and down and down and down and down until you get to a point where you're just feeling down and there's no specific solution solid reason. In that case, you just want to move on to step number 5 before step number 4. But if there is an underlying issue, then you want to go ahead and deal with it before you move to step number 5. Now, step number 5 was that I realized that there was no longer a justification for that emotion because I had dealt with the underlying issue. I realized that the emotion was no longer serving me, or if there was no underlying issue, I realized that the emotion was never serving me in the first place. But look, sometimes the underlying issue is simply that you believe that there's an underlying issue, and then you have to ask yourself, why? Why am I trying to make something out of nothing? Why am I quick to irritate? Why am I quick to get annoyed? And then you just gotta keep asking yourself why. Keep asking yourself why. Keep asking yourself why. So step number 6, after realizing that this emotion was no longer justifiable, I decided which emotion I wanted to have going forward. And this is something I apply to this day. If I'm feeling a bit down, sometimes I'll say, okay, why am I feeling like this? Is there something I need to deal with? Or is it just nothing? And should I just continue with my life and decide which emotion I want to have? Now, that's the thing. You can't do step number 6 without accepting step number 1, where you've acknowledged the fact that yes, you do have control of your own emotions. If you're someone that believes that you don't have control of your emotions, then that's a problem, because you're not going to be able to do these steps, because you're going to feel like you're a victim to your emotions. You need to recognize that you are in control. And there's science behind this too, by the way. I'll speak on this on another video, so make sure you're subscribed to stay tuned for that. But for now, just apply the steps and accept the fact that you can control your emotions. One of the most important of these 5 steps, and one bonus, so 6 steps I guess, the most important is to really be able to reflect. Take that time to ask yourself and establish what the root issue is. But the problem is that most people aren't used to doing this. Most people don't take this time to really be self-aware. So what you need to do if you really do want to take control of your emotional intelligence is watch this video I made where I break down how to actually develop that self-awareness. With that being said, you can call me the real Shay. You already know I come in the realness every single time. No cap. I'll catch you on next week's video. Peace out.